So now we're going to move on in the program to the ever popular Unicorn Challenge. And I can't tell you how much I love this session, because as a female entrepreneur myself, I know how hard it is to get a business off the ground, the relentless passion and time that is dedicated to driving innovation in an industry. So today we get an opportunity to champion two amazing entrepreneurs. Now, for this session, I'm going to hand over the platform to Sim Ung, who is basically coming to the stage right now. She's from J.P. Morgan. She's the Vice President of Wholesale Payments Solutions Asia Pacific at J.P. Morgan. Sim, wonderful to see you. I'm going to hand the platform over to you.
Thank you so much, Julia, for that very kind introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm super excited to be, and also very honored to be moderating the Unicorn Challenge today. It's got to be one of my favorite segments in the entire Women in Payments Symposium today. We have the most incredible women with us here today. These women have not only identified a potential gap as well as an opportunity in the marketplace, they've also taken demonstrate exceptional leadership, passion, and drive to bring their ideas to reality. But before I introduce you to these extraordinary women, and also to introduce you to our esteemed panel of judges today, I'd like to take a moment to tell you a bit about the Unicorn Challenge. Now, this is about the prize. So the winner of today's Unicorn Challenge will receive a 60-minute audience with our executive sponsors, who will basically provide constructive feedback to our competitors to help them, move one step further towards commercializing their solution. Today's list of executive sponsors is nothing short of impressive. We have J.P. Morgan, Citibank, Standard Chartered Bank, Swift, as well as FIS Worldpay. What a fantastic and amazing prize, and an excellent opportunity for our competitors to amplify their ideas across senior leaders in these global organizations. And today, our esteemed judges will be, scoring our competitors against 5 key criteria. Firstly, the uniqueness and creativity of the solution. Secondly, the business model and the potential for success. Thirdly, the potential impact to the market as well as users. Fourthly, the practicality and also interoperability of the solution. And last but not least, the strength and diversity of the startup team. I'm sure our judges are going to have a very busy time today scoring our competitors against these 5 key criteria. Speaking of our judges, I'd like them to now switch on their cameras, unmute their audio lines. And while they're doing that, I'm delighted to introduce you to our 3 judges today. Firstly, we have Minh Ha Trung, Regional Director for Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar at BPC Banking Technologies. We also have Deborah Taylor joining us. She's the founder as well as the Chief Operating Officer of Open Sparks. And we also have Huy Ting Oi, ex-advisor to Grab Financial Group, and now an independent director of several listed companies and also an angel investor. So cameras have been turned off as we speak. It's lovely to see you all. Minh Ha, can I come to you first? Could you please briefly tell us about yourself? And I'd also be really keen to know why the Unicorn Challenge is important to you.
Thanks very much, Sim. Hi, everyone. So, I'm Minh Ha, coming from BPC, right? So my role is, my company is computer software supporting, like banking, digital banking and payment. And before joining BPC, which is recently this year, I had 16 years spending with Visa. So, so my background is very much on payment. And the reason why I choose to join this event and very happy, to be one of the judges is that, as a woman, right? So I believe in the the empowerment of women, that how we contribute to the society, how we prove ourselves, and is that we are as good as any other, other, and at the other, like male, like colleagues as well, right? And as a woman, supporting women, then, like make everyone, become, like how to say that, appreciate their power, understand their right, and, together we build a better world. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Minha. It's lovely to have you here with us today to judge such an important and special event. Deborah, can I come to you next? Could you please tell us a bit about yourself? And again, I'd also like to know why today's event is important to you.
Hi, thank you. I'm Deborah Taylor, co-founder of Opal Sparks, and we're a platform as a service. So we provide loyalty and offers in real time using scheme data, so Visa, MasterCard, GCash in the Philippines, things like that. So, and why I'm really looking forward to judging this Unicorn Challenge is that I personally have founded over 12 companies over a 30-year period. So I've had 4 exits. I've had 2 failures, but it happens. So I just love the process of starting a company, getting an idea, what it's going to take to build a company, and then look towards the exit. So I'm really keen to hear more from the challenges we have here today to see what their drive and passion is about what their business models are.
Thank you so much, Deborah. It's our honor to have you here today. Thank you again. Finally, Ting, sorry, please tell us a bit about yourself and also why the Unicorn Challenge is important to you.
Sure. Hi, this is Ting. It's a pleasure to be part of the program today. It's an honor to be part of the esteemed judges, panel judges as well. I am Ting. I have 30 years of experience in terms of in banking industry, in leading technology payments industry, as well as my last role was with Grab, where I was the MD for the payments vertical, or head up the payments verticals in Southeast Asia. And subsequently, I also took on the advisory role for Grab Financial Services in Southeast Asia. I am now sitting on several boards as well as an angel investor myself. And why I'm very interested to be part of this program is because right now I'm also looking at a number of sort of startups, and I realize that there are not that many startups with women founders, and I'd like to be part of this sort of movement to help champion women leadership as well as women entrepreneurship. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ting. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for your time. I can't wait for the pitches and for the judging to occur, because I know our judges here will ask some very rigorous questions of our competitors today. So I absolutely cannot wait for that. And we have an excellent show lined up. Now, for now, Minha, Deborah, Ting, may I please invite you to switch off your cameras, unmute your lines, but please stay with us because I'll be inviting you back very soon when the judges, to do the judging after the competitors present their pitches. So now we're going to move on to the next part of the program, where we'll be seeing some competitors come up very, very soon. So I have 2 stellar women with me here today who have basically taken the inspiration as well as the effort, as well as the energy, as well as the relentless passion that Julia mentioned earlier, that you would expect to bring in, to start a new business. And I'm going to invite them now to switch on their cameras and unmute their audio lines, because I'm delighted to present to you Jill Berry, Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of AdaTree, and Diana Yamalavia, co-founder of GPay. Wonderful to see you, ladies. How are you doing?
Hi, good, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Hi, lovely to see you.
I look forward to seeing your pictures. Now, Jill, can I come to you first? We'd like to know a bit about yourself and also where in Asia you're joining us from today.
I'm Jill Berry, CEO of AdaTree. I'm joining from Sydney in Australia, fresh out of lockdown. Yeah, my background's been in product development, building banks, and I've founded AdaTree about just over 2 years ago. So it's been a wonderful journey.
Fantastic. I look forward to seeing your pitch later, Jill. Next, Diana, would you like to briefly tell us where in Asia you're joining us from and a bit about yourself as well?
Of course. So I'm Diana. I'm CEO co-founder at GPay. I'm in Singapore at the moment. In terms of my background, I'm originally from Ukraine, and having grown up in the UK, I was first exposed to sort of domestic work, which my business is about, when I was in Hong Kong for university. And then after working in consulting for a little while, I started GPay just over a year ago. And after a number of lockdowns and quarantines, finally made my way over to Singapore about 6 months ago.
Fantastic. Diana, I look forward to seeing your pitch later, and it's a pleasure to have you here on today's event. So it's fantastic. We know the technical works. We know the sound works. I can't wait to see your pictures. Now, please may invite yourselves to switch off your cameras, put yourselves on mute, but please don't leave the computers. I'll be inviting you back very, very soon to present, because this is how it's going to work. Each competitor has exactly 5 minutes to present their pitch. I have a timer here. I will run the clock for 5 minutes. When you see my hands go up and I start making circles in the air, it means you've got 30 seconds left to wrap up your pitches. And when you see my hands go in the air, please start wrapping up, because I will have to stop you when I reach the 5-minute time slot. Now, during that time, the judges will be very, very busy scoring you against the 5 key criteria that I mentioned earlier. And what I love most about today's session is not only will we have the judges winner, we'll also have an audience's winner. So the audience will be invited to have a voice and to vote for who they believe should be the winner of today's Unicorn Challenge. But to the audience, please do not vote until the very end and after the 2 competitors have made their pitches. I will guide you into the poll, so please hold on your votes until that point in time. So I hope you're all excited as much as I am. I absolutely cannot wait any longer. So let's get straight on with the competition. Ladies, I'm going to invite our first competitor to step up. You saw her recently. It's Jill Berry, Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of AdaTree. If you could please switch on your camera and unmute your lines. Perfect. All right, Jill, your time starts now.
Excellent. Thanks for having me. I'm Jill Berry, CEO and co-founder of AdaTree, and here to talk about our open banking data platform. So just about 2.5 years ago, my co-founder and I were looking at a new regulation called open banking, giving consumers control to share their data for better services and benefits to them. Now, it's great for consumers, but it's really, really hard for companies to participate in. There's incredibly difficult standards. They constantly change, and it costs a fair amount of money to participate. Now, if they did participate, then consumers can have better outcomes, more competitive offerings, better innovation, and there's a lot of better social outcomes that can happen. So there are high barriers to entry, but high benefits, and no solution. So we founded AdaTree to be a tech platform, B2B, to help companies of all sizes, industries, and use cases access consented banking in a wide data. So we set out a goal to be an intermediary that makes the hardest thing into the easiest thing, and that's exactly what we've done. So in Australia, we're one of 5 companies actually accessing banking data, and we're the first regulated intermediary in Australia. It's really important for us to be use case agnostic. So whether you want to use it for account aggregation or something or faster lending, switching as a service, or even a service supporting vulnerable people, that's great for you. You can use our service. We have on-prem customers as well as cloud customers, and our SaaS technology is very scalable and turnkey. Where AdaTree sits in the ecosystem, we connect to every bank in Australia to automatically get their data. So think of this as the single API secure pipe to give to our clients who provide services to their clients. First, it's banking data, but very soon we're going to be sending energy data, telco, payments, and having economy-wide data to provide better services. So the advantages of our platform, 90% cheaper than building yourself, 99.9% faster than building yourself with our one-click deploy. Last time we set up a service, it took 35 seconds to register for people, as opposed to think about 18 months building and maintaining yourself. Standards constantly change with open banking, and we're 100% aligned to it. So we're an abstraction layer, so you don't have to worry about it. And we're ready for a global architecture. We're proudly Australian, but we're ready to go to Brazil, New Zealand, and Canada. My team and I, we've worked together since about 2015, building 2 new banks. So we love building technology in regulated environments. We have a small team, but we pack a hard punch. We're diverse. More than 70% of us are first-gen migrants to Australia, and 58% of our shareholders are female. We have an excellent track record of execution, and we have met or surpassed every single goal that we have set for ourselves so far. We simply do what we say we are going to do. It's not just about B2B tech empowering other people's propositions. This past week, we launched a global first using open banking for good. It's called COVID Hotspot Alert. It's had national coverage and global coverage, but it's just about how can you use financial data and lead to better social outcomes. So it's the first time that you're using personalized banking data, machine learning, and government hotspots to notify people in real time if they've been an exposure site. So we're not just talking about it, we're walking the talk too. The past 12 months have been huge, and it's just getting bigger. We've had a 3 times oversubscribed seed funding round. We've announced Australia's largest fintech bank partnership with 27 banks signed, and we're a pioneer with regulation. We're the first ones to have the vision, deliver on it, and we are leaps and bounds ahead of the competition. We're regulated, we do the right thing, and we participate in making our data sharing ecosystem better. Looking forward, we're looking, it's not just about accessing data, but what you can actually do with it as well. So looking at how you can de-identify data according to regulation, not just only access data, but initiate payments off the back of it, have insights and data intelligence, and also income and expense verification solutions for lending. Our global expansion plans align with regulation rollout in Canada, Brazil, and New Zealand as well. So thank you so much for listening to my pitch. We have a proprietary data platform. We are a very proud and diverse team. It's been a wonderful journey as a female founder, but we have a lot of really wonderful supports from industry, our investors, customers, and regulators as well. In early 2022, we'll be carrying out our series.
Thank you so much, Jill. That was just 5 minutes, so perfectly timed there. I'm going to invite our judges now to switch on their cameras and to unmute their audio lines. You met them earlier. We have 3 esteemed judges on the panel. Minha, may I come to you first? Do you have any questions for Jill?
Yes, I do. So hi to meet you, Jill. I'm very impressed with your presentation and see that how much hard work and effort you have put in, come out with a very great result, right? So in your in your presentation, you talk a lot about cross industry, cross border, and expansion, global expansion, right? You're also very clear about your strategy and what the impact that you bring to the industry across all industry, right? So my question would be so when you start, what kind of challenges you have to overcome, and also that to overcome, to come where you are today, right? And also that when you have planned for expansion, and what are the differences and similarity in the regulatory of other countries that you plan to expand, that whether that you can easily to expand and bring over, or or you have to tailor your platform a bit to fit the environment.
Okay, great question. So the first one was about what challenges have I really had to overcome. I feel like for purposes of this, I'll keep it short, but there's too many to talk about, really. So ultimately, we started this company with software engineers and myself being the product developer. We're really good at having ideas and delivering on it. So instead of doing a raise and diluting ourselves early, we decided to bootstrap and really back ourselves for it. I think that's definitely great for our own ownership, but I think it was really tough just for credibility in the market. It's much easier to do something with a much bigger team and a whole lot of money than less. But just securing that first customer, it's also like no one was in sales as well. Doing really enterprise regulated sales is tough. So learning about that, but I really sell like a product developer, just talking about the problem alternatives and our unique value proposition. So I think that first getting started, but we've had actually so much momentum. As soon as one tells yes, then they'll tell someone else. And it's really not expansion based on marketing or spend, but just on word of mouth and just doing a good job. So I think just getting started and having that credibility is actually really, really tough. But luckily, I'm resilient and pretty stubborn. And let's see, otherwise for expansion internationally, the last thing that my team would want to do would be to rebuild, to re-platform every single time we go to a new country. So we're really focused on what countries are going to be adopting a regulatory data sharing framework that's similar to Australia and focusing on there. So not looking at market driven, but just regulator driven. So that's why we're looking at Brazil, New Zealand, and Canada. So there's been a really thoughtful architecture from the beginning. So we're just saying, how can we take 90% of it and only localize that 10%? So when we're giving a pitch to a Brazilian bank, and they're like, how fast till you can come here? Well, when the regulators are allowing us, essentially, they're looking at passporting, which you can rely on one country's regulation status and bring it to another. So that should really accelerate us. Then having the tech platform that requires really minimal localization, leveraging our microservices architecture. So that was our plan. So we didn't want to just be an Australian platform, but since we've decided to be a global platform really early on, it's taken a whole lot of infrastructure investment early on, but that means that we can speed up later.
Thank you so much, Minha, for your question, and thank you, Jill, for the answer. We've got time for one more question from the judges. So Deborah or Ting, are you dying to ask a question? Please put your hand up, and I'll hand I saw Ting put her hand up first. So Deborah, I'll let you come first in the next round. So Ting, over to you.
Jill, thank you for the succinct and clear presentation. Really, enjoyed it, and really like the fact that this solution actually has a very clear pinpoints that you're addressing. My number one question is that the quality of the data and the solution is actually largely dependent on the input or the sources of data, right? And I noticed that a number of big banks were not part of your partners. And is that a deliberate a strategy to not partner with these bigger banks in Australia to bring in their data, or is there a reason behind that? And the other one is perhaps you can address very quickly on your business model and what is your long-term plan to turn a profit eventually in the long run? Thank you.
Oh, okay. Great questions. So the first one is about why some of the bigger banks aren't in there. So we connect to 100% of the banks that make their data available. So if a bank isn't in there right now, it's because they honestly aren't meeting their regulatory requirements. So the biggest one that we get asked for all the time is ING. So they were supposed to make all their data sharing available from July 1st this year. And November 1st is the really big regulatory drop dead date for them. So as soon as a data holder, a bank, makes their data available, instead of manually connecting with them or talking with them, we automate everything. So we have them connected less than a minute. So it really just depends about them. Since it's a regulatory framework, we actually don't have to have a relationship or a partnership with any of them. just because we're regulated ourselves, and because of like how the Australian data sharing ecosystem works. It kind of like is a hub and spoke model. The regulators at the center, we have the data holders. As soon as they're live, that means that anyone who's a data recipient, they can access it. So we're waiting on some bigger ones to go live is the short answer of it. But as soon as they're ready, so are we. And then it was a partnership question, and it was about path to profitability. So we constantly reinvest. We could be right now, but so for example, I've hired 2 new people the past 2 weeks, and I'm hiring another. With some of our rapid growth, we're hoping to be profitable within like the next, ideally 2 years, but we could be profitable sooner. We just really want to reinvest in the business and have a roadmap about how we can leverage data. We could just stop right now and be profitable, but then other people will catch up.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jill, for the answer. And thank you, Ting, for the question. So now I'm going to invite our next competitor, Diana, co-founder of GPay, to switch on your camera and to unmute your audio line. When you're ready, Diana, just give me a thumbs up.
Let me share my screen.
Perfect. And when you're ready, I will hand over the stage to you once your screen share is ready.
Perfect.
It's coming up now. Thank you. We can. So your time starts now.
Great. Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Diana, and I'm the CEO and co-founder at GPay. There are 70 million domestic workers worldwide, but 50% of them are unbanked and 60% are in debt. Often they borrow from illegal allongs, which can charge up to 400% interest per annum. It's very difficult for financial providers to reach helpers because they don't trust banks, and they lack the financial literacy necessary to identify predatory financial products. Asia's population of domestic workers is growing every year, but nobody is solving this problem. Helpers need better financial tools, including the ability to save, remit, and borrow through a mobile-first platform. But you've probably heard this before, because many have tried and failed to be the bank for domestic workers. I'm about to tell you why GPay is different. Our Trojan horse is an MVP which brings on board the employer as well as the helper. GPay is an app for families to manage their helpers' expenses. So helpers can use the linked MasterCards to buy groceries, while employers can top up through the app. GPay saves employers time having to run to the ATM and go through receipts, whereas for helpers, the GPay card eliminates the need to constantly ask for cash or carry change. What's important is helpers also create an account, so they become familiar with the GPay platform because they can view the balance or freeze the card. Reaching helpers through their employers was really our big bet, but it's working. Our transaction volume and interchange revenue are growing despite the fact that COVID cases in Singapore are at a peak, and many employers don't even allow their helpers to go to the supermarket. And all of this is because GPay is changing user behavior. Most employers would never hand $1,000 in cash to their helper, but they are loading $1,000 at a time onto their GPay wallets, and they're authorizing their helpers to make larger purchases than they did when they used cash. 90% of our users are active weekly, and out of those who started using a card, only 2 have deleted their accounts. But actually, there's one more thing which is even more important than this growing transaction volume. And that's the fact that 87% of our employers have linked their helpers to their account. This means that helpers aren't just using the card, but the app too. So this means that while helpers don't trust big banks, they do trust GPay. The really great thing about our growth today is that 90% of it comes from unpaid channels. So when we post about our product on Facebook groups, we get hundreds of likes, and our existing customers voluntarily comment to vouch for the product. And we've also found scalable marketing strategies. One of these is partnerships with maid agencies, where GPay is included in the employment contracts. And when it comes to paid social, we can acquire an employer-helper pair onto the platform with about $15, which equates to a 10x LTV CAC ratio. Our long-term vision is to empower domestic workers to be financially independent throughout their careers. So when a helper comes to Singapore from the Philippines, she'll first use GPay as a tool in the workplace to do the groceries for her employer. She will also be paid her salary onto a GPay account, and our remittance product will allow her to send money back home. GPay's loans will come in handy if she's ever in need of a credit line. What we're chasing here is a $14 billion market, and we plan to expand quickly to other countries from Singapore. The first of these are Hong Kong, followed by the UAE. Our revenue streams are subscription, interchange, remittance, and fees earned from interest on loans. The first two are already live today through our expense card, and we'll be activating the remaining revenue streams in the next 12 months. Meanwhile, our competition is really stuck in the 20th century. I'm talking brick and mortar remittance shops, or worse, illegal lenders which come to extort the employer when the worker doesn't repay. As for retail banks, helpers don't understand how to open bank accounts, and they don't trust banks in the first place. But like I said, helpers do trust GPay. I was first exposed to domestic work when I moved to Hong Kong for university. Soon, I saw that there was a complete lack of structure in the space. When we saw that no one was doing this, we packed our bags for Singapore. Ever since, I've spent many Sundays at Lucky Plaza trying to learn about our customers, and we built a successful MVP from scratch in under 1 year. Right now, we're fundraising, and we're going to use our seed funding in order to reach 50 million in monthly transaction volume, launch our remittance feature, and our lending product. And I'm confident that through fast iteration and a laser focus on our target audience, we'll be able to create a seismic shift in the financial lives of 70 million domestic workers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana. I loved your pitch. Yes, just under 5 minutes, just 4 minutes and 53 seconds. So beautifully timed there. I'm going to invite our judges now to come back on screen and mute their lines. I can see Deborah as well. Deborah, I promised to let you go first. So over to you first for the first question for Diana.
Diana, look, I love the model of empowering women who don't have access to banking. It's such a huge market, so we love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I need to know a bit more about path to like exponential growth. That's what you'll be looking at, especially if you've got the B2B2C model happening. Mm-hmm. So how will you actually cope with that exponential growth from an operational, technical, help desk support scenario?
Absolutely. So we launched our MVP less than 3 months ago. So it's very early days, and we're starting to build out these more scalable processes kind of right now. So it all started with me doing customer support on WhatsApp, and now we're hiring people to do it. We're also scaling out the application. So for us, it's important to also be able to scale to other countries. So the way we do it is, first of all, we find partners for the card issuing scheme. Thankfully, it's very easy nowadays to set up a card scheme. So that's one of those things. And other than that, we just kind of isolate the processes and take them one by one. So our next step is to become PCI compliant, for example, so we can start handling card data sort of digitally, right, rather than having a stack of cards in a box in our office or in someone's apartment. So really, we just try to isolate it piece by piece and work on one process at a time.
Okay, thanks. I'll let the other judges have a go too.
Of course. Thanks, Deborah. So Minha, may I come to you next? Have you got any questions for Diana?
Hi, thanks, Diana. I love your presentation because, it's developed by women to support most women in domestic market, right? And I think that my question to you is I think that you address all the pain point, and you address the main thing you said about the trust of like domestic helper, right? They don't trust bank, but they trust you, they trust your product, right? So but with the technology and thing evolving, so like your other competitor, like traditional, like channel or bank or fintech or telco, right, will very soon develop and go into that space, like microfinance, for instance, or or even the scheme for like fast fund transfer, that kind of thing. So how do you think that your product over time will be doing things to be ahead of the game, so to be always to embrace the competition? Yeah.
Definitely. So one of the things that we do is we partner with a lot of these companies. So for example, in Singapore, you can pay with Pay Now, right? And that's super helpful. So instead of trying to kind of reinvent the wheel, we went ahead and we integrated Pay Now into our application. So first of all, people can do top-ups via Pay Now. And as of 2 days ago, which I'm super excited about, people can pay with Pay Now. So that really expands our use case. So you can send your helper to the wet market rather than just the supermarket, and she can pay to those merchants that don't accept Visa or MasterCard. So that's one of those things. When it comes to remittances as well, we just want to offer helpers the most competitive offering there, right? And for that, we don't have our remittance license, but we partner with other people in order to give them the best offering. And where GPay's value add really comes in is being kind of what I said in my pitch, really laser focused on their target audience. If you take retail banks, let's say DBS, a helper can go ahead and open a DBS bank account or a POSB bank account, but then she's going to be faced with all of these things on the interface that aren't helpful to her, right? Wealth management, buying ETFs, stocks and bonds. And that's where that financial literacy piece comes in. So we are building a really targeted product which serves specifically the needs of domestic workers and what they need and what their families need and what other stakeholders in their relationship need. And when it comes to these competitive aspects, we prefer to partner people than try to, fight existing and definitely more, stronger remittance players than ourselves.
Thank you, Diana. Hope that answers your question, Minha.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
Fantastic. So Ting, over to you now. Any final questions for Diana?
Sure, I do. Thanks, Diana, for presenting this solution that is really serving the really underserved market. Understand that this market, traditionally, the banks were not looking at it or not focusing on it because the revenue model is really challenging, I must say. However, I think I looked at your revenue model. You had interchange revenue, you had the remittance, and then, of course, lending. Two questions. One is on your remittance revenue, right? Understanding that currently there's this trend of all the different countries in Asia, like Thailand and Singapore and even Malaysia, they're having what they call the real-time payments rails as becoming interoperable. So that will help to address some of the remittance pinpoints that you were talking about early on. So the question is, do you see this as a threat or the opportunity to your current business model? And the second question is on the lending. Obviously, all of us know that is where you make the most money. So I would like to understand what's your strategy in terms of your credit scoring underwriting. Is that a advantage that you were having that the other players do not have, and that's going to help you reduce your NPL?
Absolutely. So on the remittance piece, absolutely. I know they're integrating sort of Pay Now and all other features together with Thailand, India, etc. So on the remittance piece, kind of like I said, we're just going to partner with all of these new systems because for us, that's not the main margin anyway. And remittance prices are relatively commoditized nowadays regardless. Now on the lending piece, that's the more exciting part. Like you said, that is where we make the money. We have a couple of advantages compared to other players. We have more data than anyone else about helpers' income, spending, remittance patterns, right? So let's take a Filipino helper. Typically, Singaporean lenders can't credit score her effectively because she's on a FDW pass and they don't have data about her from back in the Philippines. But Filipino lenders also can't credit score her because they don't have information about her income or salary in Singapore. So we act as pretty much sort of like the perfect middleman here. A strategy first is going to be doing this through a rev share and then getting our lending license. But the secret we found is basically lending in the home country rather than lending in Singapore. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, in Singapore, you can't issue personal loans without in-person signatures and KYC. So it kind of defeats the whole point of having a digital first platform. And number two, helpers take out loans in order to send the money back home anyway, right? So by building a lending product in the Philippines and Indonesia only, first of all, it makes the execution a lot simpler than having to build 10 products, right? In Singapore, Hong Kong, UAE, everywhere where helpers work. And it also allows us to be a little bit more flexible on the loans themselves and provide them fully digitally. There's a couple of data points that no other lender has, which we will, such as contract duration, how long they've been with their employer. One of the key elements, within kind of the risk of helpers paying or not paying back their loans is whether the employer is going to pay their salary, right? And if we understand that the employer is paying the salary on time every month, that significantly reduces the risk of her not repaying the loan. And then the last piece here is we're planning to give the option to employers to guarantee the loans of their domestic workers, because we already see more than half of employers advancing salaries or advancing loans to their domestic workers. And one way to formalize that relationship and take the financial burden of the employer, but still allow them to support their helper if needed, is allowing them to basically guarantee the loan and thereby lower the interest rate for the FDW.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Diana. And thank you, Ting, for your very thoughtful questions. And once again, thank you to all our judges for all their very, challenging questions as well. So now we are going to move on to the moment of truth. And this is when the judges are going to get to decide who their winner will be. And I'm also going to invite the audience as well to also choose who they think should be the winner of today's Unicorn Challenge. I'm going to invite the audience now to cast your vote. We're dying to hear. So will it be 1, Jill Berry, from Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of AdaTree, or will you vote for Diana, co-founder of JillPay? The poll is now open, so please cast your votes now. And while we wait for the judges to finalize their scoring process, and while we wait for the results of the audience poll to come through, we thought you might be interested to know where our previous Unicorn Challenge winners are today.
Welcome to Women in Payments. For over a decade, Women in Payments has been solving a very critical problem. How do fintechs founded by females, get access into the market? This is a vision-oriented mission. Christy Duncan saw that there was not access in market and sought out to build it. And what an achievement. Over the past decade, there have been events across the globe with female-founded companies like myself and Boss Insights and other challenge winners getting access to the market, access to enterprise players, networking opportunities, advisory opportunities, and sometimes even the opportunity to explore partnerships. So stick around for this video where myself and other challenge winners will show you why we benefited so much from being part of the Women in Payments community.
So when I think about what inspired me to become a fintech entrepreneur, I think we want to go back to, what inspired me to be an entrepreneur. And I'm an example of an accidental entrepreneur. And I was working as an engineer way back in 1999. And I started working from a merchant's perspective, processing credit cards. And as you start to unbundle the payments system and start to understand just even a little bit about it, it becomes really, really fascinating and also really irritating. You can see lots and lots of problems to be solved. So from that perspective, my inspiration, if you will, was rage, anger at how things worked, and completely ignorant and uninformed belief in self that could offer something to improve the state of the art. So that was what originally inspired me in my first company. That was a really long journey. And then what you realize once you're in financial services and once you're in payments is it really, really is an extremely interesting industry and subset of an industry. So when I sold my first company and then had a year off and thought about what I really wanted to do next, the pull of payments was inexorable. And so the second time, I'm facing it more as an industry participant who is enamored with the industry. There's still lots and lots of problems to solve, but lots of opportunities as well.
And about 4 or 5 years ago, my husband had his credit card used fraudulently online. He had to cancel the card. We had to wait for 2 weeks for the card to come through the post, and then had to plug in all of that data across over 100 online locations. And it was really at that point, penny dropped, and we realized, oh my God, none of us actually own any of our personal or our payment information. And we realized this is something that needs to be addressed, and it's a real problem. And because Alistair had also come from a product background, on the technical and strategy side, we both did very different things, and we found the challenge really. So yeah, that's what we've taken on. We absolutely believe people should own their own personal data, and that privacy is a fundamental human right, and the way that it's stored today is completely broken. So we've got our mission, and really that's what inspired the creation of Nuggets, and what inspires us to, run the business essentially.
What inspired me to be an entrepreneur? In some ways, I think it was aligned in the stars. I didn't know it at the time, but when I was working as a commercial banker at RBC, I kept feeling attuned to the business owners. I didn't know why, but I just wanted them to get excellent service. I wanted to delight them. I wanted to excite them. And I did not want to be constantly calling them for access to their financial statements or any other information I needed to give them a loan, funding, cash managements or payments or any of that dry stuff that we need to get our business done. They had vision and I wanted to work with them on that. Didn't know why. When I think about it, as I go through this industry, I understand why now. I was always slated to be an entrepreneur without even knowing it. I'm actually a third generation of people starting their own businesses. So it makes sense that when I was put in front of business owners, what I felt most keenly was the urge to make sure that they were equipped with a top need, which is capital and funding, so that they could go out and shine for the stars.
So the biggest obstacles that I've faced and how I've overcome them, I think the number one is around funding.
The biggest obstacle that I ever faced, certainly as a first-time entrepreneur, was financing.
As a fintech founder, I'm actually creating two startups in one. The first is getting access to the technology and building that technology to present it to market, getting customer feedback, making sure that you understand the latest trends, being a real expert in the space. So that's the first startup. The second is understanding a business strategy and go-to-market strategy that will lead to exceptional growth. Those are the biggest challenges that a startup founder has. They can be an extreme expert in their space, but they have to be very good and talented at attracting an audience and making sure that their technology is adopted. And the challenge there is to hone in on the appropriate customers to approach, how to approach them, and the appropriate partners. The biggest tip that I can provide is that it's really important to find people where you will have a win-win solution. There should be ROI, return on investment for both parties, in order for any good partnership, collaboration, or sale to take place.
Female founders, I think, receive only just over 2% of VC capital. And obviously that's a huge issue, right? Because we all need capital to realise our products, commercialise these, and then take those to market. And I think really there is just don't underestimate the amount of effort that it takes and not taking no for an answer. I think when you know that there's still a way to go around the balance of female funding versus male funding, is understanding that then it becomes a numbers game. You need to eventually meet the VCs or the investors that will back you and your business. So I think one of the ways that I've overcome that is by speaking more, becoming more visible. Also, I think don't underestimate the power of a really great supportive network. I think that's one of the things I had no idea, going into this journey 4 or 5 years ago, how powerful that network can be. And that's not just with, making yourself more visible, but really, someone that you can pick up the phone to and talk about these things, and also has got your back and that can lift you on those days that you really need it.
So pitching in the Unicorn Challenge for FiSpan, which is my first opportunity to pitch, was super fun. And the biggest benefit for FiSpan from that particular pitch fest was actually internal. By coming home as a very young company with a trophy that we proudly displayed in our entranceway, it made a big difference to the 5 folks that are in this little high-risk startup, and also people coming into the office.
Pitching at the Unicorn Challenge is incredibly beneficial. You not only get the opportunity to present your startup, to a number of successful women across, some of the biggest corporates globally, So you get to share your product, but you also get some really invaluable feedback. And I think that's something that, I can't stress enough. It's almost like just that alone, without even winning the Unicorn Challenge, is just a phenomenal feedback, essentially, that loop into, because a lot of the people that you're presenting to are normally those that you'd be presenting to in a commercial capacity as well, that procure services like our startups provide. So I think that's number one. And then if you do go on to win the Unicorn Challenge, I mean, I can just say from my perspective, it's been incredibly invaluable. The number of doors it's opened, whether you're talking to, some of the top banks and financial institutions, but also at the speed at which it's grown my network as a result of having, those meetings. So no, it's incredibly invaluable.
What's really incredible about Women in Payments is that it allows the fintech founder to get access to some of the leaders in the enterprise community. In Canada, there are a few large financial institutions, and then there are several mid-range financial institutions. And any fintech founder knows that it's really challenging to get those meetings on the book. What I would encourage all the future fintech leaders who are applying to this program to do is to make sure you prepare adequately for those meetings. Go in with questions that you want answered. Don't look at it as an opportunity to further just a partnership or a potential sales opportunity. Look at it as an opportunity to learn. Learn about the financial institutions and what their struggles are, what they're dealing with. That way, it's not just about that meeting and that access point, but it will be an investment in your learning and your journey in getting to market.
So the advice that I would offer to anyone considering setting up their own startup is that as long as you're solving a real world problem, do it. It's clearly not an easy option. Being a founder is tough, but it's so incredibly rewarding. And there's never really been a better time to set up a business, especially within fintech, than right now, given the regulatory landscape, the fact that there are now female founded VCs that you can also pitch your product to. But I once read this quote that said, if you're prepared to be the worst paid, work the longest hours, and have the most stress, you're ready to be a founder. But I would say to all of that, it's also so incredibly rewarding.
When I'm asked for advice to give to other entrepreneurs coming in to the industry now, what I say is, there is an old fable about if you want to get to a certain destination, it's really helpful to know what that destination is and work backwards and know how to get there. That doesn't always work in entrepreneurship though, does it? Because we don't always know the destination because things are changing so very rapidly. The best thing I can suggest is to have something like a 5-year plan and then break it down into 1-year chunks and quarterly chunks. If you're going to achieve the results that you're looking to achieve, you have to have a plan in place. Leave some room for ambiguity. The other thing that's really important is to really understand your space. And I don't just mean the technology that you're bringing to market. Understand the other players that you're going to be interacting with. If you have a sense of who your partners are, who your clients are, who your competitors are, you're going to be so much more impressive to market, and you're going to be more equipped to deal with the challenges that come. Always remember to listen to advice when it comes at you, but the most important voice is yours. So trust yourselves, allow yourself to take this risk, and go out there and build your business.
My first bit of advice is to ensure that you or your team has enough domain knowledge to not go in completely blind, and have enough domain knowledge so that you have found a niche or an opportunity that actually is worthy of starting a new fintech business. The second bit of advice I would give to someone considering entrepreneurship in fintech, specifically a woman, is that there's actually never been a better time to actually dive in and go for it. And the reason is banks are very much more open to partnering with fintechs. Venture capital is really flowing into the sector in a way like it's never been before. Doesn't mean that it's hard, doesn't mean that, 9 startups out of 10 are going to fail. But there is opportunity and there is momentum around supporting young technology companies, and specifically those founded by women and visible minorities.
Wow, that was such an inspiring video. It's always so heartwarming to see other female entrepreneurs, to hear about their journeys and also their success stories. Now, whilst we were busy watching that video, our judges have decided, who the winner is against their 5 scoring criteria, and I also have the results of the Audience Choice Award as well. But before I announce the winners of today's competition, I'm going to invite our judges to come back on screen to provide some candid feedback to our competitors today. So Jill and Diana, may I also ask you to also join us here on the screen as well? Fantastic, I can see you all. So Minh-Ha, maybe over to you first. Do you have any feedback for Jill and Diana today?
Thanks, Sim. I think that, I wouldn't call it feedback, but I would just share my impression, right? So I'm very impressed with the 2, smart ladies who are actually very, creative in thinking and, problem solving. And, and you come up with a solution. And I mean, for other 3, I have to say that Jill, I have to say that I feel that you're very brave, coming into that. It's a trend right now. So big data is the trend in every country, right? Data, decision making based on data driven is the key for every industry. But I think that, the reason I say brave is that because regulatory is something very complex and something that can change over time, right? So we play in that role. We have to be always be alert and always have a very good that vision and understand what's happening. So congratulations. So I think that so I think that and when you come to other country, like you said, Canada, New Zealand, and Brazil, that I think that the challenge is still there. Like I said, even only 10% need to be tailored, but the regulatory is something that that everyone have to watch out in order to be a success in the long run. Yeah. And I think that for GPay, like Diana, I just said that, I love your solution because it addresses a very obvious, issue. It's like pending, everyone seeing it, right? It's an unserved segment. And that, what you're solving, right now it's in Singapore, but actually it touched the the women, wealth and confidence in the Philippines, in Indonesia, right? And it's helped grow, economy, business in Singapore and also in those countries. And when you go to Hong Kong as well, so it's been cross-country impact, right? And also I think that this is a way to serve people and bring them to financial inclusion. So, and serving women, helping women that in need, that is like I really, it really touched, Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minh-Ha, for your very thoughtful feedback. Deborah, can I come to you next? Any thoughts, comments for Jill and Diana today?
Oh, look, I just love that. I mean, to see 2 young women who are making a difference in 2 very different areas was really inspirational. So I can see the market fit for both. Dana, I think with your business, there's huge potential. You can get the app working right, you can get your B2B2C channels working right. And Jill, you're in a very challenging space with open banking. There's a lot of competitors out there as well. So, I hope you go really well. What I would say to both of you, having, founded so many companies, is always come to meetings with the view that you're fundraising. So you're both doing raisings now. So cap raising doesn't stop. It's ongoing. So make sure that you have conversations even with people now that may not invest with you now, but they may do a Series A or Series B. So make sure that you actually keep a focus on fundraising at all times to ensure that you've got that runway for when you do need it and need to expand more.
Thanks so much, Deborah. That's excellent advice. And Ting, can I come to you now? Any final, impressions, thoughts, or feedback for our competitors today?
Sure. I definitely like both. I think both pitches the fact that both obviously solve very clear pain points as well as feeling perhaps addressing a gap in the market. And I think I love the fact that both of you are doing something to improve lives for the underserved or for the consumers, right? I think if I were to observe, I think perhaps the observation I have is that for Jill, I like the fact that this is a fairly new and unique solution, and then you already have 5 or 6 years into the market. You have a sort of a first mover advantage, and being it's a B2B model, and being that the regulators are going to mandate this, so I think the opportunity for you to scale and the business model seems to be a little bit more certain, and that's why that's my feel, my take as well. And as to Diana, I love the solution. This is a market that a number of people have tried to crack. It's an underserved market, and the fact that not many people are in it because the business model is indeed very challenging. And being in a B2C model, I think for you to scale or the company to scale, I think it may be costly. I'm not sure what is your channel strategy or partnership strategy, because it's going to be very expensive to scale. And in terms of the business model or revenue model from the lending, I'm not very clear. I understand that, of course, you have data and all that, but I'm also not sure that how successful you will be to get the employers to guarantee. And also the other challenge will be the collection as well. So I'm not sure. Perhaps you didn't have time to explain in more detail your competitive advantage as well as your collection model as well. Because being a bank, you can always credit score them, and that is something that most people do not want to get a bad credit score. But I'm not sure what's the hold you have on these consumers as well. So I think that's perhaps not very clear at this point, and that's my feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Ting, and thank you to all our judges for their very thoughtful and valuable feedback today. And thank you to Jill and Barry for listening so attentively. I hope you found the feedback very useful and also valuable as well. Now, may I invite all our judges and competitors to switch off their cameras, unmute their audio lines, because now we're going to reach the most exciting part of today's event. I am delighted to announce the winner of the audience's vote is Diana. Please switch on your cameras again, unmute your audio line. Is there anything you'd like to say to our audience today who voted for you?
I want to say thank you very much for everyone who came and voted for me. It means so much being a young female founder, very new to this market, very new to Singapore. I really appreciate everyone's sort of faith and support in what I'm doing and what I'm building. And I'm excited for what's to come.
Well done, Diana. Congratulations again. Now, just to create a bit of suspense, may I please invite you to switch off your cameras while I announce the winner of the Judges Award. And I'm delighted to announce that the winner is Jill Berry. Jill, please unmute your camera and on your audio line. What would you like to say to our judges today?
Oh, thank you very much for this opportunity. You guys have had wonderful feedback. You're obviously very experienced and came at it from different angles. One of my investors told me that rockstar women attract other rockstar women. So it's nice for a strong female ecosystem in payments and data. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jill, and big congratulations to you as well. You hold a very auspicious title as a winner of the Women Payments Unicorn Challenge. Thank you also to our judges today for their very thoughtful questions and for stepping up and judging today's competition. I'm just going to, just wrap up today's conference with a few final remarks. And to do that, I need to thank a couple more people. So at the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned that the winner, which is Jill, she will receive a 60-minute audience with our executive sponsors, and they are J.P. Morgan, Citibank, Standard Chartered Bank, FIS, Worldpay, as well as Swift. So a big thank you to our sponsors today. I'd also like to invite everyone who has participated today, as well as the entire Women in Payments community, to champion these women on social media. So when you see, in the Women in Payments LinkedIn or Twitter, please applaud, herald, and champion these extraordinary women for their fantastic work. And we look forward to watching their success with great interest and joy as well. Now, with that, I'd like to conclude today's Unicorn Challenge. Thank you again to all our judges, as well as our competitors today. It's been a joy as always. And thank you again to our audience for joining us as well.